Macca had barely shut the door behind him after visiting Mary Jane before he turned back to it, fists clenched and jaw tight. She'd taken a real beating, barely able to speak, one eye swollen shut, her voice little more than a ghost under the bruises. He'd sat by her side, listened to her half-whispers about what happened, heard the names, knew it was down to Murph. It took everything in him not to lose it right there. Back in his shop, Macca moved with deadly purpose. He yanked open the counter drawer, snatched up the small bottle of laudanum, and shoved it in his coat pocket. Then he reached under the counter and pulled out the axe handle, solid scarred wood, slick where old blood had dried and been wiped clean. It was the only law he trusted anymore. He returned to Mary Jane first, quietly placing the laudanum by her bedside. She was barely awake, but her hand crept toward it instinctively. He didn't say a word, just placed a calloused hand gently on hers and nodded. Then he turned and walked out, the axe handle hanging low by his side. Osborne Street wasn't far, but every step felt like a war march. The sky was dull and heavy with soot, the street barely lit. Macca didn't knock. He kicked the door in with one brutal blow and stepped into the room. Murph looked up from the table, startled, a half-rolled smoke between his fingers. Rosie was in the corner, already shrinking away. Macca didn't give Murph a chance to speak. He crossed the room in a flash, slammed him up against the wall, and drove the flat of the axe handle into Murph's jaw, pressing it so hard his teeth groaned under the pressure.
"You touch one of my girls again,"
Macca snarled, voice low and vibrating with fury,
"and I'll ram this right up your arse and twist it till you bleed from the eyes."
Murph grunted, trying to push back, but Macca shoved harder, the wood grinding into his throat.
"Fuck you."
Murph spat, lip curling.
"Don't like it. Take it up with Bash and Moorish."
"I'm taking it up with you,"
Macca hissed.
"I deal with the master, not the baggage he keeps at heel. You watch yourself."
He held Murph there a second longer. The moment stretched tight as wire, then let him drop. Murph staggered, coughing and wiping blood from his mouth.
"You should be watching your own back, Macca."
Murph growled.
"You're washed up. Your days are numbered."
Macca stared him down, his eyes flat and cold.
"Maybe. But if I go down, I'm dragging you to hell with me."
He turned and walked out without another word, boots heavy on the floorboards. Murph seethed, pacing, jaw tight. Rosie, still in the corner, ventured weakly.
"What was that all about?"
Murph turned on her, eyes flashing.
"What the fuck's it got to do with you?"
Rosie took a step back instinctively. She should have known better. She did know better. But lately, Murph's moods had grown blacker, his rages more frequent. And she was getting real tired of being the punching bag for his bad luck.
Thunder cracked overhead like the sky was splitting in two. Lightning flashed, casting the streets in stark, ghostly light before plunging them back into shadow. Rain poured in relentless sheets, turning Burner Street into a sewer river. Horse dung, blood, and city rot swirled together in greasy torrents that snaked past the warped door of the International Working Men's Club. Cozy and Sam stood just inside, watching the filth flow past.
"This won't work,"
Sam muttered, eyeing the downpour.
"Not if this keeps up."
Coase didn't flinch.
"You heard what Dimmy said.
He turned to face Sam, eyes steady.
The spirits will burn.
"Even in this?"
You worry too much. If not tonight, then tomorrow."
Sam's jaw tightened.
"You keep parroting him. You heard what Dimmy said."
Coase gave a thin smile.
Maximum chaos.
Sam smirked back, but there was no humor in it.
"You feel it? That pressure in your chest feels like a force for change."
Coase nodded slowly.
Feels good.
"Yeah?
Sam shot him a look.
You sure it's change you feel? Not just the thrill of burning the whole rotten place down."
Coase hesitated.
Same thing, isn't it?
"No,
Sam snapped.
not to Dimmy. Don't confuse the spark with the fire. This ain't about watching the city scream. It's about why we make it scream."
Coase dropped his eyes and nodded.
Means to an end, not the end itself.
"Exactly."
Sam turned and began restocking the bottles behind the bar.
Spirit Warehouse first, then Ratcliffe Docks.
Dimmy back at 1.
He'll come when the skylight's red.
Coase glanced out the door. Rain still lashed the cobbles, endless and cold.
Not if this shit doesn't stop.
Another thunderclap tore through the air, followed by a burst of lightning that lit the street.
It'll pass.
Sam said without turning.
Storms always do.
Cozy exhaled, slow and deep. His fingers itched. The adrenaline coiled inside him. The hunger for flame, for justice, for reckoning. Outside, the rain poured. Inside, they waited. Their time would come.
The room off Osborne Street stank of damp and stale sweat. The rain outside hammered the rooftops. The streets turned to rivers of filth. Murph sat at the rickety table, laying down cards for a game of solitaire, his brow furrowed in dull concentration. On the sagging bed, Rosie sprawled with her feet up, staring at the water-stained ceiling, sighing every few minutes like she wanted to be heard.
We going down the pub first?
She asked. Murph didn't look up.
No, you stay here. Don't want him clocking you if he recognizes your face.
Rosie groaned.
I'm bored.
Murph finally met her eyes.
Tough. Your idea, lovely.
She gave a weak smile, placating, but he was already back to his cards. Then the door exploded inward, crashing against the wall. Moorish and Bash stumbled in, dripping rainwater onto the floorboards, their coats soaked through. The air reeked of wet wool and the streets they'd waded through. Rosie propped herself up on her elbows, smirking.
Been having fun, have we, boys?
Bash peeled off his coat and tossed it onto the chair, his face a thundercloud as he stepped toward the fire. Water pooled at his feet.
Yeah,
He muttered.
a fucking riot.
The room steamed like a boiling pot, damp clothes hissing as Bash and Moorish edged closer to the meagre fire, their boots dripping onto the cracked floorboards. The stink of rain, soot and mold hung heavy in the air.
Do you still want to go ahead with it?
Bash asked, his voice low, eyes fixed on Murph. Murph didn't answer straight away. He kept flipping cards, the soft slap of each one sounding louder than it should have in the cramped silence. Finally, he looked up, his expression unreadable.
Not likely to piss down all night, is it?
And if it does?
Bash pressed. Murph gave a one-shoulder shrug, nonchalant.
Then we wait. But Rosie'll have to lure him in again when the time's right.
All eyes turned to Rosie, still sprawled across the mildewed bed. She hadn't been listening, or had pretended not to, but the weight of their gaze dragged her back into the room. She blinked, caught on, and rolled her eyes.
Nice.
She muttered, the sarcasm dripping thick.
Real fucking nice.
The men said nothing. The only reply came from the spitting of the fire and the steady, relentless drumming of the rain outside. Murph looked up again, eyes flickering to the rain-streaked window like it might hold answers.
What about his missus?
What about her?
Bash replied, his tone flat.
Would blackmailing him be easier?
Rosie let out a dry chuckle and shook her head.
I don't think he gives a fuck about his wife.
Bash added,
Plus, there's a few boys in that working men's club that can handle themselves. Best not give 'em reason to get involved.
Murph nodded slowly, the idea dying as quickly as it came. The rain hammered down harder for a moment, like it wanted to drown the streets. Murph stared at the cards in his hands, then muttered.
Better make sure we wear the scarves, cover our faces.
Bash and Moorish gave quiet grunts of agreement. Rosie turned back to the wall. Murph stared at the spread of cards, but wasn't really playing any more. He hated solitaire, always had. But it gave his hands something to do, something to focus on, something to smother the steady black tide rising in him. That rage, constant quiet, patient.
The Black Swan was thick with smoke and the low hum of voices, the kind of place where men drank hard and spoke in whispers. The gaslight flickered against the stained walls, casting shadows that danced. Caleb stepped inside, his eyes sweeping the room with the cold precision of a hunter. He spotted Teddy No-Legs in his usual corner, nursing a gin and grumbling to himself. The place was ticking over, the evening just starting to stretch its claws. He moved to the bar, ordered a drink, then found an empty bar stool. From here, he could watch everything: the entrance, the exits, the patrons shifting like wary animals in their usual patterns. His gaze settled on the barmaid, Lucy. She had that easy charm, all bright smiles and quick hands. But then the mood shifted. She caught Caleb watching her, and he smiled. She smiled back. She slid to Caleb's end of the bar.
Haven't seen you in here before.
Caleb shrugged.
No, I haven't been around, but I can see reasons why I should drink here more.
They shared smiles.
Yeah, I hear that 100 times a day.
She said. Caleb flared his eyebrows.
That doesn't surprise me.
I'm a married lady.
Well, your husband has very good taste, that I can tell.
Lucy grinned.
Yeah, of course he does. And how many barmaids have you given that line to?
Caleb grinned back and was about to give a response when the main doors opened, causing everyone to check out the new arrival. A man stepped through, rough. No nonsense. The kind of man who carried violence like a second skin. Tommy Slade. It had to be. Lucy's whole demeanor changed in an instant. The light in her eyes dulled, her shoulders tightened. She quickly drifted away to the other end of the bar. She moved carefully now, like she was walking on glass. Caleb watched the way Tommy looked at her, the quiet ownership in his stance. No doubt about it, she was his, whether she liked it or not. Then another man followed Tommy in, Gabe. Similar build, same dead-eyed stare. A brother, most likely. Together they were a wall of trouble, the type of men who didn't need to announce themselves. Their presence did that for them. Caleb had never seen them before, but he knew their kind. He'd spent his life around men like this, predators who took what they wanted and crushed what they couldn't control. A slow smirk tugged at the corner of Caleb's mouth. He didn't need to ask around anymore. His fact-finding mission was done. Trouble was coming. He could feel it in his bones. He knocked back the last of his drink, set the glass down with a quiet finality, and pushed off from the bar. He looked to bid Lucy goodbye, but she was making a conscious effort not to make eye contact. It was time to fill in Farrow. The Black Swan had new management, and that meant the game had changed.
Caleb pushed through the door of the Bluecoat Boy. Farrow had agreed to meet him here, the stench of stale beer and unwashed bodies hitting him like a blow. After what had gone down at the Black Swan, he needed a drink. Something strong to dull the nerves and wash away the sour taste of the day. The mid-afternoon crowd was thin, the dregs of the city nursing their poisons in dim corners, faces half-lit by the guttering wall lamps. His eyes swept the room, stopping at a table near the back. Two women sat there. One of them he knew, Julia. She lived in Macca's Rents, and he remembered her from a few nights before his last stretch inside. The other woman he'd seen in the 10 Bells, younger, fresher, out of place in a pit like this. Something about her made the room feel even heavier. Julia caught his eye and rose, making her way toward the bar. Julia's grin widened when she spotted Caleb at the bar. It was the kind of grin that belonged to better days, stretched a little too thin over the weight of years.
Well. Look who's back. When'd you get out?
Caleb smirked. A friendly face was a rare thing in these parts.
A while ago now. You're looking well.
Julia scoffed, the irony thick in her voice.
Yeah? I'll believe that when I hear it from someone sober.
Caleb chuckled.
Heard you were down at Macca's Rents now.
And still no visit?
Didn't think you'd want to see an old relic like me.
She gave a mock-serious nod.
Yeah, you've got a point there.
They both laughed, but it didn't quite reach their eyes.
So, you still about then? Still?
Caleb trailed off, not needing to finish the sentence. The light in Julia's face dimmed.
Yeah, you know how it is.
It was only then that Caleb really saw her, the weight of time pressing down, the lines on her face etched deeper than he remembered. There was a tiredness in her, a slow decline towards something bleak, the kind of woman people step over in the street without a second glance.
That's life, innit?
She muttered.
When you're young, you can get away with it. Earn a few good shillings, get by. Then before you know it, the work dries up, and you're clawing just to keep a roof over your head.
Caleb nodded. He knew the feeling.
It's the same for your lot,
she continued.
That's what did for my old man. Hard graft wears you down. Then the drink and the workhouse finish you off.
I never pegged you for the maudlin type, Julia. You used to be the life of the place.
She gave a brittle smile.
Yeah, Grim, ain't it?
Caleb gestured to the bar.
Let me get you a drink.
Julia shook her head.
You're all right, love. Just getting one for my mate, Mary Jane. Then I'm off.
Caleb glanced over at the table where Mary Jane sat, drinking alone, a bruised face. She didn't fit here, not like the others. There was something different about her, something misplaced.
She knew.
Julia shrugged.
Lives at Macca's Rents with her fella.
Oh, clean-living girl then.
Julia let out a short, knowing laugh.
Yeah, if you like.
Caleb raised an eyebrow.
Is she all right? Looks like she's taken a beating.
Yeah, some geezer's done her over, poor girl. But she's okay.
Caleb eyed Mary Jane again.
Tough bird then? Surprised her fella didn't sort them out.
Julia nodded.
I think he wanted to. But she told him it was a gang of women.
That's so.
Julia leaned in slightly, her voice lowering.
Between you and me, she was down the highway. Got herself in a spot of trouble, so she made her way here.
Caleb nodded. He understood straight away.
Down the highway.
Caleb's mind started to scheme. She grabbed her drink and turned to go.
Anyway, love, I gotta be off.
She placed the gin in front of Mary Jane, muttered a few words, then slipped out of the pub, throwing Caleb one last look.
Come and see me, yeah? Buy me that drink.
Caleb nodded.
I will, don't worry.
He watched her disappear into the street before turning his attention back to Mary Jane. She sat alone, the glass cradled in her hands. As he studied her, an idea began to form. Something he overheard in a pub, a Polish guy called Kosminski had said, something that slithered into his thoughts.
With Julia gone, Caleb eyed Mary Jane as she drank from the tankard. Caleb wandered over to the table and sat himself down.
Where's your man?
He asked. Mary Jane thought for a moment she recognized Caleb, but she couldn't think where from. He was shorter, squatter than most, and she knew he ran with one of the local gangs. Julia had seemed to know him well, but then Julia knew everybody and didn't care who she spoke to.
Working,
She replied flatly.
Are you still working?
She couldn't tell if he was leading to something or just making small talk. Either way, she didn't want to encourage him. She aimed to finish her drink and head home, or join Julia in the 10 Bells. She hadn't decided yet.
Not really. My husband earns enough.
What does he do?
He said, his tone thick with skepticism. Mary Jane turned and gave him a hard look.
He's not in and out of prison, running with a bunch of crooks.
No.
Caleb said with a smirk.
He's living on Dorset Street with a cheap doxy.
Mary Jane glared. Normally she'd have snapped "fuck you" without hesitation, but it was then she remembered him.
You were in the 10 Bells. I remember now. You were a cheeky bastard then too.
Caleb grinned and carried on.
Must be tempting. Earn a bit of easy money while hubby's off at work.
She turned her face away, clearly disinterested.
No.
Earn a pretty penny on the highway, so I heard.
Her head snapped toward him, eyes narrowing. A cold dread crept down her spine, and her stomach tightened. Was this the one who'd been looking for her on the Ratcliffe Highway? He didn't look old enough, but maybe he worked for them.
I think I may have given you the wrong impression, mate. I was flirting with you, 'cause my fella had pissed me off and I wanted to piss him off.
Caleb grinned.
You work from a lodging house or with a bully?
Mary Jane glared again. What was he getting at?
Don't know what the fuck you're talking about, mate. I gotta go.
Mary Jane rose to leave. Caleb caught her arm.
Finish your drink,
He said. She picked it up and downed it in one. Then she made to leave. His grip tightened. A vice on her wrist. Christ, why were bastards always so strong?
Don't go, I got a deal for you.
Mary Jane sank back down with a defeated slump. Caleb took a drink, giving her time to settle. She stared at him, waiting for this deal he had to offer.
I'll stop beating around the bush,
He said, slamming his empty mug on the table.
There's 3 types of doxy on the highway. The ones who shack up with sailors on leave, like part-time wives, the ones who work from a bawdy house, and the ones with bullies who roll drunks. All I'm asking is, which were you?
She kept her eyes moving around the bar, feigning boredom and indifference.
Well,
He asked again, patient now. Mary Jane gave a careless shrug.
Still don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Caleb smiled wryly.
I feel sorry for you, I do. Got a right unhealthy attitude. That's going to get you in trouble. I'm offering you a way to make some easy money.
Yeah, well, excuse me if I don't want to end up in Pentonville or Newgate.
She shot back.
You might not care, but I do.
Caleb leaned in slightly.
Didn't seem to bother you on the highway.
That was different.
Mary Jane replied.
That's the highway. Shunters were too scared to go down there half the time.
Caleb's grin widened. Got her, he thought.
So you did roll sailors on the highway.
Clever bastard, aren't you?
She said, unable to stop the faint smile tugging at her lips. Caleb laughed, pleased.
Did anyone ever tell you you've got a gorgeous smile?
Mary Jane looked him dead in the eye, still smiling. Fuck off, she mouthed. Then aloud,
How do you know I work the highway?
Julia told me.
He let the moment hang, then leaned closer, lowering his voice.
There's a tailor gets into the Britannia during the day after the market. Apparently he's loaded and careless, married, but he's got a taste for younger girls, pretty ones like yourself.
Mary Jane stared into her drink, thinking. Then she downed it in one go.
So you want to roll him?
Yeah.
She shook her head slowly.
I don't know. Bit risky, daytime. Like I said, Ratcliffe Highway in the dark's one thing, but...
You don't have to worry. I do the rolling. You just lace his drink with laudanum, lead him off somewhere quiet. I'll handle the rest.
Mary Jane scanned the bar, then looked at her empty tankard, then back at Caleb. She was weighing it up.
You're not cheating on your man,
Caleb said.
No one's getting screwed, just giving some randy old sod the illusion he's scored. If we don't do it, someone else will, and they'll pocket the payday.
She said nothing. Caleb pressed on, sensing the hook was set.
You think he'd give a toss what happens to you? If you starve, get slashed, end up picking oakum in the workhouse. He probably thinks that the nutter-killing street girls is doing God's work.
Mary Jane was about to respond when her eyes flicked toward the bar. A new figure had entered. She leaned in.
You a fighting man?
Caleb frowned.
I've been known. Why?
She nodded toward the bar. Caleb turned to look, and his stomach sank. Standing there in his usual aggressive stance was the man they all knew as the shirtless Irishman. The landlord looked visibly uneasy. Mary Jane was intrigued, curious to see how it'd play out. Caleb leaned in and muttered,
Julia's at the 10 Bells. Fancy joining her?
Mary Jane grinned and nodded. They stood to leave, but the Jack O'Brien spotted them.
Why? Shorty, you giving me the evil eye?
Caleb slipped a hand into his coat, threading his fingers through the holes of a brass knuckle-duster.
Minding my own business, mate.
Between them sat a table and chair. The Irishman picked up the chair and hurled it across the bar, narrowly missing another patron, who scrambled out the door in a hurry. The landlord reached under the bar and pulled out an axe handle.
I want no trouble in here.
Caleb and the Irishman stared each other down. Neither flinched. Caleb kept his grip tight on the brass knuckles.
I'll not tell you again,
the landlord shouted. Mary Jane stood behind Caleb, smiling. Jack O'Brien noticed her.
Mary Jane, how the hell are you?
Mary Jane smiled again.
I'm good, big man. You're looking well.
The Irishman snorted.
This little whelk with you?
Yeah, he's a mate.
Jacko grinned and slapped Caleb on the back. He growled,
Any mate of Mary Jane is a mate of mine.
Turning back to the bar.
Give me an ale, barman.
The landlord hesitated, then slowly lowered the axe handle and poured the drink. Caleb turned to Mary Jane and she grinned.
Come on, mate,
she whispered.
You owe me one.
Caleb nodded. Together they slipped out the door. As Sam had predicted, the rain had relented, leaving the Whitechapel streets a foul morass of horse manure, rotting food, and stagnant rainwater. Coase, head down, stalked through the alleyways and back roads at a brisk pace. Beside him strode Morris, an older man with sharp eyes and a sharper mind, who helped organize meetings at the club. Both men moved with purpose, the thrill of their mission barely contained. There was something intoxicating about being on the fringe, about planning destruction from the margins. To be outsiders, striking at the heart of a system that had chewed them up and spat them out. Resentment, always close at hand, was an easy thing to stir and near impossible to quench. Hatred stalked the streets of Whitechapel like a living thing. In the haze of degradation and despair, it fed on hopelessness. And like Cozy and Morris, it moved with rapacious hunger, always craving more. Then, at 9 o'clock that night, a great fire broke out at a spirits warehouse in the East London docks. Flames tore through the structure, casting an orange glow across the dark river. Firefighters from across the district raced to the scene, steam engines rattling through the narrow streets, horses straining against the weight. They fought hard, and by shortly after midnight, the blaze was finally under control. But as the weary firemen packed up their gear and prepared to return to their stations, another call came in. This time, more urgent, more dire. A second fire, even more destructive, had erupted at the Ratcliffe dry dock. The exhausted crews had no choice but to turn back, their bodies aching, their boots soaked as they sped toward a new inferno. Fires, especially large ones, often drew crowds. In the poverty-stricken East End, they were morbid theatre, bright, violent, and impossible to ignore. People emerged from alleys and tenements, drawn by the glow in the sky and the chance to witness chaos. Dimmy would be proud seeing the sky red with fire as he made his way back from market.
The feral figures, masked and silent, waited patiently in the shadows. Rosie had been right. Dimmy was a creature of habit. He'd had a good day at the market. Business had been brisk. As he gently urged his trap and pony down the narrow back streets, a rare smile crept across his face. The sky above glowed red, flames flickering high from the direction of the Ratcliffe dry docks. The second phase had gone ahead then. The boys had done good. Panic and fire. Poison for the gentry, fuel for the cause. But his smile was misplaced. From her vantage point, Rosie spotted the pony and trap turning into the secluded end of the street. She gave the nod. In seconds, the shadows came alive. Bash lunged first, dragging Dimmy from the trap and slamming him hard to the cobbles. Bash's bulk and strength made short work of subduing him. One solid thump to the head, Dimmy was out cold. Murph gave Bash a satisfied nudge. Clean, quiet, effective. There wasn't much time. Moorish kept watch, eyes on the street corner where the shunter was due to pass on his nightly beat. The others worked fast, rifling through Dimmy's coat and pockets, money, trinkets, anything of value, before vanishing once more into the alley's shadowed embrace. The next thing Dimmy remembered was waking up with a pounding in his skull and blurred vision. A shape hovered over him, tall, official, outlined by the lamplight.
"You all right, sir?"
came the voice. Calm, clipped, concerned. Dimmy blinked up at the shunter, standing over him in his heavy overcoat, custodian helmet tilted forward as he shook him gently.
What happened?"
Dimmy muttered, trying to sit up as the pain shot through his temple.
"You've been rolled, sir,"
the officer said, helping him up.
"Do you know where you are?"
Dimmy didn't answer. He didn't need to. The realization was already crawling through him. The cause? The mission? Fuck that. Someone was going to pay.
Polly downed the gin. The frying pan was heaving, filled with an atmosphere of forced joviality that clashed hard against the miserable reality of most of its patrons. But that was the thing about the drinking dens of the East End. They weren't just places to drink, they were places to forget. To lose the weight of a hard day's graft, the memory of that arsehole boss who barked at you for every little thing. To forget the creeping dread of facing another hopeless day, scrambling just to find enough for a bed or a bite of meagre food. God help you if you ended up in the spike and it came to picking oakum. Polly detested it. Soul-destroying work, bleeding your fingers for next to nothing. She sometimes thought the men had it even worse. Breaking rocks all day for a bowl of flavourless skilly and a bug-ridden bed. Rats big as kittens scuttling underfoot. A woman had it better maybe, but only just. Women like Polly were hardened by life's drudgery. They could trade a few unpleasant moments in a back alley for something fleeting but vital. A short taste of freedom, a splash of warmth and laughter in a crowded pub. Even a half hour of company, of human interaction, could feel like salvation. She'd been on the brink before, more times than she cared to count. and more than once it was a drink from a friend or a kind-faced stranger that had brought her back from the edge. She remembered the pubs around Trafalgar Square especially, before she got herself arrested. There'd been a strange kind of camaraderie in those places, starving, homeless, hopeless, but together in it. That shared misery somehow made it all just a little easier to bear. But now the gin was gone, her last coppers spent. She felt the tipsy warmth in her limbs and knew it was time to go. She didn't want to. She could still soak in the warmth of the frying pan, the sense of belonging, the hum of voices and laughter. But there was no one left in here who might stand her another drink. Might as well try for a bed. Or maybe, just maybe, there was another opportunity waiting out there tonight. She rose from her chair, exchanged pleasantries with a passing acquaintance, and stumbled out into the cold, rain-glossed streets of Whitechapel. Polly stepped out into the cold with an uncertain gait. Not drunk, but certainly dulled by the drink, soft around the edges, her senses blurred. The drizzle had returned, thin and persistent, slicking her threadbare shawl and the bonnet she wore tilted atop her head, a strange little thing, fancier than what the others at Wilmot's had seen her with before. New, or borrowed, or stolen. She made her way along Thrall Street, heading for Wilmot's lodging house. Inside, the stink of old wood, sweat and damp coal greeted her. She made her way to the counter, hopeful, smiling. But the deputy keeper barely looked up.
"Fourpence,"
he said. She patted at her skirt pocket. Empty. Her smile faltered.
"Then you can't stay?"
he told her plainly.
"Out."
She was gently but firmly ushered back onto the street. A light wind caught her shawl, tugged at her skirts. She turned back to the keeper with a grin that was more desperation than mirth.
"I'll soon get my DOS money,"
she laughed, tapping the side of her bonnet.
"Got a new hat, look."
The keeper nodded absently.
"Yeah, wonderful."
There was no little irony in his voice. He turned away and Polly shoved her 2 fingers up in defiance. Then she was gone, melting into the shadowed streets with a sway in her step, heading off into the early morning. The gaslights flickered above her, and the city swallowed her whole.
The misery he felt was intense. The mild, late August air brushed against his face, but the stench of the streets, the slums, the piss-soaked alleyways, the human degradation, spoiled what might otherwise have been an invigorating sensation. He hated being here. He hated life. He silently raged, and yet he knew there was only one thing that made him feel alive, that fleeting, heightened moment when the blood coursed through his veins like fire, when the natural chemicals in his body surged, lust, fury, something primal, and any sense of consequence evaporated. It was the only time he felt whole, the only time he felt powerful. The single-minded pursuit of satisfaction had become everything. Like a predator on the prowl, hunger gnawed at him. It was time again.
Polly was beginning to sober up. The fog of gin was lifting, and with it came the weight of misery. The dull ache of survival seeped back into her bones. Carrying the banner, a night on the streets, was never easy. She cursed herself for not keeping some of the coins she'd earned earlier, but in the moment, a drink with friends at the frying pan had seemed worth it. The laughter, the singing, the warmth. It was fleeting but precious. Now, walking slowly through the dimly lit East End streets, she felt that creeping dread settle in. Half of her still hoped for a kind soul, someone who might offer enough for a bed. The other half dreaded what it would cost. It was never pleasurable, just quick, desperate, necessary. She thought briefly of her husband. He had left her for the woman next door. That betrayal still stabbed at her heart, even after all these years. She winced at the thought. Tonight, she didn't need more reasons to feel hollow. Up ahead, a figure approached. Something about him made her uneasy.
His breath quickened. Conditions were perfect. Dim gaslight, deserted street, silence broken only by distant footsteps and the murmur of the night. This was it. Opportunity. The rush swelled in him like a storm. Each step closer made his heart pound harder.
Polly slowed. Her steps became hesitant. Something felt off, Not in his appearance, but in his presence. There was nothing overtly strange about the man, but her instincts prickled. It was different from earlier in the night when she'd laughed with friends or turned down a drunk sailor. This was something else. She tried to brush it off, probably just the sobering up.
"Hello," the man said, stopping in front of her. She nodded, polite but wary.
Hello?
He looked at her, eyes intense, unmoving. His blood thundered in his ears.
"Should have been tucked up in bed by now, love,"
he said. She made an effort to smile.
I haven't got the 4p for my DOS.
"That's a shame,"
he replied. A beat.
"Maybe I could help you with that."
His voice was calm, almost kind. Polly nodded faintly.
Yes.
But even as she answered, something in her gut twisted. She hoped it would be over quickly. And it was, just not in the way she ever could have imagined.
The bullseye lamp scanned slowly from side to side down the deserted stretch of Buck's Row. It stopped. Just ahead, in the dim glow, lay what looked like a bundle of rags. The light was poor here. This part of the street, near the warehouse entrance, was swallowed in shadow. The duty policeman on his beat narrowed his eyes, then stepped forward. The bundle hadn't been there 30 minutes ago. He dropped to one knee, angling the lamp closer. As he reached out, his hand brushed against what felt like a head. And then warmth, wetness. He pulled his hand back, sat back on his haunches. Blood. Shining the bullseye directly onto the bundle, the truth hit him like a brick. It was blood, a lot of it. "Jesus," he whispered, heart suddenly pounding. He staggered to his feet, fumbled for his whistle, and blew. A shrill cry cut through the quiet East End night.
It was still early when D.S. William, Johnny Upright Thick, knocked on Inspector Reed's door. Reed, half-shaved, opened it with a bleary expression.
"All right, Gov. Sorry it's so early,"
said Thick, already grim-faced.
"Looks like your old hunting ground's seen another murder."
Reed froze for a second, letting it sink in. He muttered a curse, grabbed his jacket, and followed Billy out, heading toward Bethnal Green and the boundary of J Division. Inspectors Spratling and Helson were waiting by the scene and filled Reed in with grim efficiency. A woman, unidentified, throat slit clean open, and when Dr. Llewellyn performed the examination, he discovered she'd been gutted. Reed was momentarily stunned, the sheer savagery of it. They talked through the earlier outrages. Emma Smith, Martha Tarbram. Could this be the same hand? Reed agreed H Division would canvass the lodging houses and offer any help they could. Just as he turned to leave, Helson called out, "Oh, and one more thing, Eddie." Reed turned back, curious. Helson smiled. "Fred's on his way down from the yard. Coming to lend a hand." Reed nodded. They usually resented Scotland Yard interfering, but Fred was different. Fred Aberline knew Whitechapel inside out. If anyone could help make sense of this, it was him.
Morning at the International Workers' Men's Club. Dimmy sat slouched in a battered armchair, nursing a few bruises and a pounding head.
"Didn't you see them?"
Sam asked, leaning forward. Dimmy winced, rubbed the side of his temple.
"I wasn't expecting it. It came out of nowhere. No faces, no voices, just shadows."
He shook his head slowly.
"Could have been anyone."
"No idea at all who they were,"
Sam pressed. Dimmy scoffed weakly.
"Hardly. It was dark and this place is crawling with scum. Take your pick."
"That's so true,"
Cozy muttered, almost to himself. Dimmy sat up a little straighter, his eyes bloodshot but sharp.
"You caused plenty of panic, though, yeah?"
Cozy and Sam exchanged a loaded glance. A flicker of pride, a flicker of guilt. Neither said a word. Cozy lit a cigarette with a shaky match, the faint sulphur burn mixing with the smell of old beer and sweat that clung to the club's walls. Sam stood, moved to the window, and parted the curtain just enough to peer out onto Burner Street. The sky was still smudged with smoke from the docks. People were talking. Word was spreading.
"Crowds were watching the fire all night,"
Sam said.
"That's what we wanted. Distraction, doubt, a crack in the facade."
Dimmy grunted, still wincing.
"Glad you two are so bloody pleased."
"You should be,"
Coase replied.
You being hit just adds to the confusion. They'll think it's random. Maybe a score settled. No one's thinking bigger. Yet.
Sam turned from the window.
Not until it's too late.
There was a moment of silence.
What's next?
Dimmy asked finally, rubbing his jaw. Cozy stepped forward, voice low, almost reverent.
We seed the papers next. Rumors, contradictions, a whisper of conspiracy. The docs were only the beginning.
Sam nodded.
Next comes the symbol, the real message.
Dimmy looked between them, a slow smile spreading across his bruised face.
Then let's make it unforgettable.
Cozy smiled and slipped the penny news sheet under Dimmy's nose. Murder in Whitechapel.
Real panic.
Cozy said, grinning. Dimmy scanned the crude print, his eyes narrowing as they darted over the garbled, breathless words. Woman found mutilated in Bucks Row. Suspected gang violence. The streets no longer safe. He snorted.
Christ, that didn't take long.
Cozy sat back, arms folded, the satisfaction plain on his face.
You see, fire is one thing, but this...
He tapped the page.
This is fear. Pure, primal. It doesn't just burn, it lingers.
Sam leaned over Dimmy's shoulder.
They're scrambling. Papers contradicting each other already. One says it's a turf war. One blames radicals. One even suggests it's foreigners.
Dimmy chuckled, winced at the pain in his jaw.
They're desperate.
That's what we want.
Coase said.
Confusion, panic. People need to see the truth. This place isn't held together by law. It's barely held together at all.
Dimmy looked at them both, a flicker of unease behind his bruises.
You two keep talking like this was part of the plan.
Sam didn't blink.
Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but it's useful. The question is, how far are you willing to let it go?
Cozy reached forward, took back the news sheet, folded it neatly.
Maximum chaos.
He whispered again. Dimmy said nothing, but the silence between them cracked.
That's all well and good.
Dimmy growled, wincing as he nursed his bruised ribs.
But I want to find the bastards who jumped me last night, and I want them to pay.
Cozy shrugged, calm as ever.
Sure, but how? You said it yourself. Dark street, masked faces. Could have been anyone.
Dimmy's eyes narrowed.
I've had a thought.
A face flickered in his memory. The brass he'd picked up last week. She'd known his route. The time he returned from Crystal Palace Market. Smiled too easily, asked too many questions. He couldn't remember her name, but the face. He'd recognized that smirk.
She was part of it,
he muttered.
She had to be.
He suddenly held up the crumpled news sheet.
This murder in Bucks Row, see what it tells us?
Sam and Coase exchanged a glance.
What about it?
Sam asked.
It shows what we've always known,
Dimmy said.
This place has sunk to its lowest depths, and no one gives a toss. Just another corpse in the gutter, and still the city grinds on.
He let out a bitter laugh.
And the capitalists? They'll find a way to profit off the panic.
Coase nodded slowly.
Even the filth at the bottom of the heap has its uses.
Dimmy smiled, cold, purposeful.
I'll find her,
he said.
And when I do, I'll remind her what it means to cross me.
Tommy sat upright on the edge of the bed. Pale morning light filtered through the gap in the curtains, casting a soft grey sheen across the room. His clothes were still on from the night before, creased, faintly damp, smelling of smoke and the East End. His side of the bed remained untouched. Lucy lay still, feigning sleep, watching him from beneath half-lowered lashes. She knew he'd been out all night. Again. She never asked where he went. She'd learned that lesson early. Tommy never lied outright. He just gave the kind of answers that left you more lost than before you asked. And if she did press him, he'd only turn cold, shut down, vanish even further into himself. Still, something in her stirred, a flicker of the old care, before the shadows between them had grown so wide. She shifted and reached out, placing a gentle hand on his back.
You all right?
She whispered, though she already knew the answer.
Go back to sleep.
Tommy's voice was sharp, clipped, flat with a tension that filled the room. He sat, elbows on knees, head in his hands, eyes fixed on some distant point in the wall, the kind of stare that wasn't really looking at anything at all. Even in the dim morning light, Lucy could see it, dark smears across his knuckles, caked under his fingernails.
Are you bleeding?
She asked, her voice cautious. Tommy glanced at his hands like he was only now registering them.
No, a fight. Just a fight.
He muttered.
Go back to sleep.
She turned away, curling onto her side. But sleep wouldn't come. Not now. There was something in his voice, something under the surface that unsettled her. And deep down, in that place where unspoken fears lived, Lucy had to admit the truth. Sometimes, Tommy truly scared her.
Fred Aberline stood silently, eyes fixed on the wall map in Reed's office, fingers lightly tapping his pipe against his coat.
Could she just have been looking for a secluded spot to sleep?
Reed shook his head.
Hardly likely, Gov. Witnesses say she'd earned and spent her money several times that night.
Fred frowned.
Does that seem likely to you?
Walt cut in, leaning against the desk.
The fire brought a lot more people out than usual, Governor. Bit of excitement, few pints and business picks up, even for someone like Polly.
Fred gave him a look.
Doesn't mean she was on the game, Walt.
Reed raised a brow.
Seriously, Fred?
Fred stayed calm.
Just saying, if a woman's out late, especially after something like that fire, doesn't automatically mean she's earning on her back.
Walt wasn't convinced.
Her ex-husband identified the body, said it was proven in court she was in receipt of illicit earnings. Took her to court just to stop paying her an allowance.
Fred shrugged.
She used workhouses too. Doesn't mean she didn't drift in and out.
Reed chimed in.
Could be just opportunity. The fire pulled in a crowd. More people, more chance.
Fred nodded slowly.
Still, can't be certain.
Reed added,
Bucks Rose on a regular patrol. Every 15, 20 minutes, Gov. PC Neal swears she wasn't there on his previous pass.
Walt added,
Another constable passed the end of the street and saw nothing either.
Fred looked back at the map.
You think they're connected?
Reed and Walt shared a look and both shrugged.
The ferocity seems similar,
Reed offered. Walt stepped forward and pointed to the map.
Look at the proximity. Emma Smith, Martha Tabram, now Polly Nichols, all in the same square mile. Gang-related.
Fred raised an eyebrow.
You mean motive being to keep mouths shut? Because these women could barely afford tuppence for a bed, so it's not robbery.
Reed rubbed his forehead, looking weary.
Who says there is a motive?
That made both Walt and Fred pause. Fred stared hard at Reed, then turned back to the map.
Now that is a scary thought, Eddie,
he muttered.
How do you think we should go about this then, Gov?
Reed asked his now senior officer.
Do what you're doing,
Fred replied.
Let Spratling and Helson handle their side, but we focus on Polly. Everywhere she went, everyone she knew, people she lodged with, drank with.
He paused.
Slept with. And keep digging into Smith and Turner. They might be connected. Try to find some kind of motive. Because if we don't...
He hesitated again, then added grimly.
This is going to be a real shitstorm.
Reed nodded.
I thought it already was.
Aberlin certainly added clout to the investigation. His knowledge, his informants, his reputation, and his sway with those higher up. Being a member of the lodge helped. That, and the fact that he still carried weight across divisions. As instructed, everyone who could be questioned, quizzed, or interrogated was. No lead was ignored, no trail left unfollowed, no stone unturned. But it wasn't enough. The press didn't help. The public were furious. And the politicians, usually silent when it came to Whitechapel, were suddenly asking questions. Reed had mused to Aberlin that they didn't really give a fuck about what was happening down here. But maybe, just maybe, the firebrand anarchists influencing the penny press were finally having an effect. The name Leather Apron was starting to spread. Rumors of a thug who prowled the slums, extorting women on the game, threatening them with knives. Hearsay became whispers. Whispers became headlines. Reed and Aberline raised eyebrows when D.S. Billy, Johnny Upright, Thick, suddenly collared a suspect, a local called John Pizer, as the infamous Leather Apron. Fred hadn't been convinced. He'd seen too many clean arrests that were too convenient. That doubt was soon justified. Pizer had rock-solid alibis for every one of the outrages. Aberline noted it down. Johnny Upright was one to watch. He'd worked H Division before. Too much temptation on the patch. Too little discipline. After a few brief conflabs with the lads from J Division, Fred pointed out something curious. Every attack had occurred on a weekend or a bank holiday. That settled it.
Start keeping extra eyes on the docks and any sailors passing through,
he'd said. Because someone out there wasn't just killing. They were planning.
East End of London, Dorset Street, 1888. Macca glanced over the news sheet Harry had just brought in.
Seems it all kicked off last night, then.
Do you think it's related?
What, the fires?
All of it. I saw Johnny upright.
Macca raised his eyebrows, a grin tugging at his mouth.
Did you?
He said mockingly.
An experience for you.
He's all right, for a shunter.
What did he say?
He reckons they think the murders might be connected.
I thought this one just had her throat cut,
Macca said. Harry shook his head.
No. According to J.H., they got her back to the morgue and she was chopped up. Not dissimilar to Turner's bird and the woman from Louis' lodgings.
That always struck me as strange. Smith was mugged by a gang, right? What would be the point?
How do you mean?
Macca paused, thinking, then ventured,
Well, did she know too much about the Black Swan raid and got silenced?
Harry nodded slowly.
Surely they would have just cut her throat.
Not unless they didn't mean to kill her. Just warn her off.
Harry shrugged.
Fuck knows. It's all getting a little naughty if you ask me. Brass is getting chopped, fires breaking out, new management moving into the area.
Yeah, be worth keeping an eye on things. Get the boys to stay sharp.
Yeah, I'll have a word.
Just then, the Chandler's door swung open to the ring of the bell, and Mary Jane stepped in.
Oh, my word, do my eyes deceive me, Harry? Or do I spot an early morning rent payer?
Macca said mockingly, sharing a look with a smiling Harry. Mary Jane looked very much the worse for wear, hungover from hell and with a sick twist in her gut.
Oh, yeah.
She said, blinking against the light.
I, meant to pop that in last night, but you wouldn't believe what happened.
Macca gave her the once-over, a wry smile curling at his lips.
I can guess.
You know me?
Too well.
Honestly, I've been working like a demon lately.
Harry laughed.
Drinking like one, you mean?
Mary Jane ignored the jab.
Me and Barney were coming home from the music hall last night, and we got mugged.
Really?
Macca said, trying not to burst out laughing.
No, straight up. I was going to come in first thing and pay up.
Mugged?
Harry raised an eyebrow.
Did you see your assailants by any chance?
Be fair, Harry.
Macca cut in.
There's a lot of it about. I got mugged the other night myself.
Really?
Mary Jane said, incredulous.
Yeah, barmaid at the Weaver's Arms, barman at the Frying Pan, barmaid at the 10 Bells, barmaid at Ringer's.
Mary Jane rolled her eyes.
You don't believe me, do you?
Yeah, of course we do.
Macca said, fighting a grin.
Anyway, young lady, what can we do for you?
I wondered if you could do me a favour.
Maybe. Depends, of course, but you know me. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Mary Jane nodded.
I realised that.
Just then, her eye caught the paper on the counter.
Did you hear about the fires at the docks last night? They reckon it was arson.
Do you ever go in the Frying Pan?
Harry asked.
Not really. Why?
One of the regulars, a woman from that way, was chopped.
Mary Jane's blood ran cold.
Another one?
Didn't you hear?
Said Macca. Mary Jane slowly shook her head.
Not worried, are you? Barney will look after you.
She looked visibly shaken.
Yeah, but it's bloody typical though, ain't it? This all starts happening since Barney lost his job.
Macca winked at her reassuringly.
We'll look out for you too, girl. You know that.
Mary Jane smiled, faintly. But something still chilled her to the bone. Busy dinner time, the pub was heaving. The atmosphere was jovial if somewhat aggressive. Plenty of banter, plenty of offensive behaviour, but all taken in good heart and somehow in the best possible taste. Lucy worked hard, slaving away behind the bar, serving drinks, dodging probing hands and leering suggestive comments. She was used to it, immune, took it as it was meant, without real malice. Sometimes she even enjoyed the chaos. The atmosphere soaked into her bones, warmed her, lifted the usual dark fog that came when Tommy was around. Tommy's brother worked the bar beside her, exchanging banter with the punters. A hard man, no doubt, but he didn't have Tommy's rage. Then Tommy entered from the back room. His face was dark, angry. The shift in energy was instant. Lucy felt her mood drop. Gabe noticed. He glanced toward his sibling and called out over the noise.
Where the hell did you get to last night?
Good question,
Tommy said, voice low.
I got something to tell you when you're ready.
His brother nodded, served another punter, then said,
Wait till things quiet down out here. I'll come through.
Tommy gave a short nod and disappeared back through the rear door. Lucy and Gabe exchanged a glance. He saw the tension creeping into her expression and offered her a quick, reassuring smile. In the back room, Tommy sat behind a worn desk. Opposite him sat Mickey Kidney, the two deep in conversation when Tommy's brother entered. Tommy glanced up.
Lucy okay?
Yeah, it's quiet now.
Tommy turned to Mickey.
Don't suppose you can keep an eye out there, could you, Mickey, mate?
Mickey nodded.
Yeah, no problem.
He got up and left the room. Gabe watched him go, then turned back.
You sure about him?
Tommy nodded.
Yeah, why?
A shrug.
Dunno, just got a feeling.
He's all right.
What's the word then?
Tommy leaned back, a small, satisfied smile tugging at his lips.
Found him.
Really? What, last night? How?
Tommy's smile widened, but his eyes stayed cold.
Just got to ask the right people, the right way.
Yeah, I'm sure.
His brother muttered, already sensing trouble on the horizon.